All right, well, hello there, everyone. It is Friday, February the 4th, and I'm back again with another special guest. And this guest you have seen before. We have with us Bill today. And I know you loved the first talk that Bill and I had. But for anyone who hasn't seen that talk, I'll turn it over to Bill and let him do a quick introduction on himself. So go right ahead, Bill.
Hello, everyone. Good to be back. Mark, thanks for having me. So just a quick intro on me. I'm a 17-year Navy veteran, been investing for going on 20 years now. And if you haven't watched that first video of Mark and I's discussion, go back and watch that. I think there's some good stuff in there, a lot of good nuggets. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on it, and that video continues to make the rounds, and I'm hopeful that it's helping a lot of people. So hopefully this one does too.
I agree, Bill. That was a great talk that you and I had. It's gotten a lot of views, a lot of likes. I've gotten a lot of positive feedback on it as well. But today, I think what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk a little bit about mindset, and we're going to touch a little bit on lifestyle creep. So, Bill, if you want to kind of kick it off and tell us just about how your mindset can affect yourself and also with investing.
Yeah. So anybody who's been doing anything for more than a couple of years knows that your mindset evolves over time. It's never going to be the same. It's always changing. And I wish I would have gotten into heavy investing mindset when I was younger. I think if I had, I could possibly be looking at retiring even sooner than I'm already going to. But most kids, 20 years old, don't think about that kind of stuff. They're not thinking about retiring at 40 or 45 or even early at all. They're just young, living life, having a good time. So hopefully today we can get into a couple tips, tricks, habits that have worked for myself and you and other friends of ours that we know of over the years to help people out with how to start early and then just keep that momentum rolling. And as you watch things build up, it's easier to frame your mindset and then go from there.
So, all right, that sounds good. Because a little bit on myself, I started investing when I was about approximately 22 years old, but I started with mutual funds and I really didn't know what I was doing. And so my mindset, I did have a mindset towards being frugal, but that was about it. So how about yourself, Bill? When you first started investing, how was your mindset? Anything you can share with us?
Very similar, to be honest. So I was lucky enough that when I joined the military, my boot camp drill instructor kind of urged us all to get into TSP, which is the government retirement program. So I started out small with that, thinking, I'll basically just put $100 in a month at the beginning, because I wasn't making hardly anything when you enlist as an E3. You don't have a whole lot of disposable income to push towards that kind of stuff. So I started small with that. And then I think a year or two after I got to my first real duty station, I did the same thing. I started with mutual funds through USAA. I think we talked a little bit about this last episode, but started with them and did the same thing, $100 into this fund, $100 into that fund every month, set up a recurring withdrawal from my bank account to be set with that. So I didn't even have to think about it. And for probably 5, 6, 7 years, that was the only investing that I really did. I didn't have any kind of alternative investments. I had, the typical emergency fund where you save a little bit of cash on the side for issues or whatever. But I wasn't big into credit cards or doing any kind of real estate or anything like that at the beginning. Same as you, just mutual funds basically, and retirement for a while.
Right, I got you. That's how I think a lot of people start out. And unfortunately for a lot of people, I think even if they take that step and get started with mutual funds, like in their 401k or whatever it may be, they stop right there. They never go further.
Right.
And I know for myself, and I've said this before, in 1999, I found a website called The Motley Fool. And that's where I learned about individual stock investing. But even then, my mindset changed a bit because I was getting into investing in individual stocks with learning from the Fool. And I was more focused on being frugal because I was working as a police officer and didn't have a lot of money, had 2 little kids. So looking back on it, I still didn't have that, say, correct mindset to really like I do now. So I don't know. So what do you think?
Yeah, I think you hit on a very important topic. Being frugal, that word kind of rubs some people the wrong way. I don't know why. It doesn't mean you're cheap or that cheap, I guess, is another derogatory term people think of when they think about not spending all their money, but that's how you want to be. That's the easiest path to success, is to not spend much of your disposable income. Invest as much as possible. Don't leave even at your means, because that's paycheck to paycheck, right? And certainly don't live beyond your means. So yeah, frugality, I think, is key. And if you can start early with that and develop that habit like you did, and like many others we know have, then that's probably the biggest key to success, is early frugality. Don't let things run away from you as you start to, make more money or advance in your job or whatever. Start to invest that extra money. I know we'll talk a little bit about creep later, but yeah, frugality, that's key.
Right. I agree 100% with that. And I know something for me that I think started a good mind shift for me. I read a book. Tom Gardner from the Motley Fool had sent it out, and I'm drawing a blank on it now, what it was called, but it was about a gentleman who started investing when he was in his 30s or 40s. And this was going back in time, might have been the 1950s or 60s. And by the time of his death, he was worth, it was in millions upon millions of dollars. Like, it was either 10 million, 20 million, but it was a big number. And he was just kind of your average Joe. But one thing he said in that book, he said he had a son, and his son said, they're walking somewhere, and the son said, "Hey, Dad, I want to get a hot dog." And the dad replied to him, "Well, let's think about it. That hot dog costs $1. But if you could take that $1 and invest it today, what could it turn into in 20 years? And that, maybe that was a true story. Maybe it wasn't a true story, but it got me thinking, he's right. It's the little things sometimes, that $1, what can that turn into in 20 years? So I don't know. I mean, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, that's the time value of money thing, or can't remember what the phrase is for it, but there's a phrase for basically missed opportunities with money you spend, what that could be if you invest it. And I think that has there's a time and a place for that. And that's certainly a good way to introduce that to younger kids. I have younger kids that I talk to about investing and tell them, hey, if you save this $10 now, put it in your account, let me invest it for you. When you're 10, 15, 20 or whatever, it's going to be worth this much. And they, their eyes get all big when they think about that, because they don't think about the value of $1 or $2. And I think a lot of adults are like that too. They just don't have, like we're talking about, that kind of mindset of, do I really need to buy this right now? Now, if you're hungry and you're starving and you're out, sure, find something cheap to eat, but don't go spending, $50 to $100 on dinners when you don't have that money to spend, that type of thing.
Right. I agree. Because one reason I started this channel was when I looked around, throughout life, all the years I've lived, I look at society. As the years have gone on, I see society, individuals getting more and more in debt, both student debt, college debt, new car debt, even car loans now. They're stretched out to 8 years if you buy a new car sometimes. And I had a video the other day where I was talking about like making a dock in my backyard and putting a fence up. And I think in the video I made a comment about, I need to figure out, I already have it figured out, but how do I buy the asset that gives me positive cash flow to pay for what I want to get? Right. And someone messaged me and said, you're different than so many Americans in how you think. And I was like, what do you mean? And they said, most Americans, knowing you want to get a fence, you want to get a dock, you want to renovate your pool, they would just go do it now, go in debt, and then be in debt for the next umpteen years to pay it off. And they're like, well, Mazske, you're thinking about doing that stuff, but you're figuring out how you can pay cash for it or buy the assets that can make the monthly payment.
Yeah, so, it's like the opposite of credit card debt is what we're talking about, right? Like you said, consumer debt is rampant, as bad as it's ever been, because people don't think about it. They just, get credit card debt, make their minimum monthly payments. They're clueless as to how much interest they're actually paying. They just know, oh, I bought this, $8,000 fence or whatever, and I only have to pay $90 a month for the next 15 years or whatever. And they don't do the math. They're just like, I want that fence, I'm going to buy it, and not set themselves up to be able to afford those things later, like you have, and like some of us other channel members are working towards doing.
Right, true. And that kind of leads into the other topic. Like when I'm talking about a fence or a dock or a tiki hut, someone out there watching might be like, hey, I want to do the same thing. Or maybe they don't live in Florida. They live somewhere up north. They say, I want to put a gazebo in my backyard. It costs $5,000, but my neighbors have it. Or I want to be better than my neighbors. I want to do that. And something like that is tied in with the other topic of what some people call lifestyle creep. So what do you think about lifestyle creep?
Well, before I talk about lifestyle creep, I like your, hey, I want to have a nicer gazebo than my neighbors, right? Keeping up with the Joneses is the popular phrase that people have used for decades. And before I talk about lifestyle creep, I will just say, like, as part of mindset, who cares about the Joneses, right? Even if they're your best friends, who cares what the Joneses have? You don't need to compare yourself to them. You don't need to compare yourself to other people. You need to compare yourself to who you were 6 months to a year ago, and then look at where you want to be in 6 months to a year and worry about that. Don't worry about what other people think about you, especially about your money. Because as we talked about, and as most people know, 99.9% of people do not know what they're talking about financially. I'm sure some of the things I talk about now, I'm still not fully educated on, but listening to other people or letting other people's actions or what they have drive what you do is not where you want to be. And it's not the way to financial independence. It's not the way to being wealthy and successful in the long run. Okay, so lifestyle creep. Sorry, do you have something? Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna respond real quick, but go right ahead. Keep on going.
Okay, I'll kind of bounce back and forth between mindset and lifestyle creep on this one, because this is something that I have been fighting a battle with my entire military career. Lifestyle creep. I've gone from being a fresh out of boot camp E3 making, $1,200 every other week after taxes and putting that $100 in my 401k to now an 03 prior enlisted with 17 years in, getting my community bonuses. I'm not going to go over the numbers, but you can look it up if you're really curious as to how much I make. I think Caleb said this before too, right? My paycheck is public information. But I've come a long way, that's for sure. And I think that I spend less frivolously now than I did when I was that brand new E3 and E4 in the military because of the habits I've developed. So I think I've kind of, I don't know if I'm coining this term or not, but like reverse lifestyle creeping my path as I get older and the more money I make, I try and push as much of that as I can towards investing, look at minimizing spending, try and figure out how I can get things either for free or have something cover a part of it, whether it's through credit cards that have certain credits on them or points or whatever. And we can talk more about that later, but that's kind of where I've come with lifestyle creep. I didn't care when I was younger, as most people did, about saving as much as possible. I think if I had, and I had battled some of the frivolous spending I had when I was younger, like I alluded to earlier, I would probably be pretty close to retirement.
Right. I understand what you're saying. And I know with myself, I think for whatever reason, I was born with it in my mind not to pay too much attention to what others are doing. So with lifestyle creep, maybe my friend, my neighbor had this nice car while I drove the old car. Or maybe my friend's wearing the latest and greatest fashion and I'm wearing the old shirt or whatever it may be. But for a lot of folks, I think they struggle with that. Even myself, where I live at, I wonder, and I've talked to neighbors and they see work I've done to my house and I can kind of see their brains churning. They want to do the same as what I'm doing. And what I don't know is I don't know what their finances are. I don't know to tell them, don't do it. Don't go into debt to do a fence or make a fence or do a tiki hut. Invest to cover it.
Right.
Once I get to know them better, I may talk to them about it. But so
yeah, finances are a touchy subject. I'm trying to break that barrier with as many people as I know as possible. Mostly just by putting my story out there and saying, hey, here's the mistakes I've made along the way. I've been uncertain about things before too. And most people are afraid to ask. They're not going to ask somebody else for financial help, even if they know that they are doing well. Like you said, right? Your neighbors are like, oh, you have investments paying for all that stuff. They're still not going to ask you about it unless you develop a relationship and kind of make the first move, if you want to call it that. So I think education is important, and being forthright about how you've gotten to where you are without, bragging about it or seeming like you're bragging, but coming from a standpoint of education and sharing what you've learned is crucial. And it's probably the best way to get people to get on the way to financial independence or wealth.
Right, right. I agree. And one thing, this is kind of tied in with this, but there's three main categories people spend their money on. And one is their housing, one is their vehicle, and one is, what's the third one? Maybe like their consumption, their food consumption. And with some of these categories, the housing is the most expensive. And I know on my channel, and I think you and I might have talked a little bit about it, there's what's called house hacking. Having a house and having roommates to help pay your mortgage. But a vehicle, but for young people, and you're in the Navy, so you have young sailors. For a lot of young people, it's that new vehicle that catches their eye. I saw it when I was in the Navy. My wife would talk about her job when she'd have young people get hired and they got that first paycheck. The next thing she knew, they'd be driving a brand new expensive vehicle to the job site. And I've seen that going back when I was 20 years old. I see it now when I'm in my mid 50s. It's like that lure of that new vehicle. People just cannot resist it. And I'm not sure what it is to the human psyche. We see it, we want it, and we want to have it now. But that's not always the best way to go, as you know.
Usually not. Yeah, so it's funny. I actually have a note down here about this. It kind of ties mindset, lifestyle creep, all this together about dopamine hits and that type of thing, right? You go see a shiny new car, or you get hired to a new job, like you said, or you get a raise, and you convince yourself, hey, I deserve this, and it makes you feel good to go buy it. And you convince yourself that you can afford it, which may be true, but being able to afford something and should you buy it are two completely different things. So I have some notes about how to get dopamine hits without buying stuff that you can't buy. And that's why I think that early investment, even just putting a little bit in here and there and then starting to invest more and more. I don't know about for other people, but I like to go in and manually buy stocks and ETFs every week or two, because it gives me that satisfaction of watching my account balance go up, watching my share count go up. The next time I get paid dividends, getting a little bit more and a little bit more, and just watching that grow. To me, that is more satisfying than going and buying a car that I know I'm going to have to pay $700 a month for, another $150 in insurance for, gas, all that type of stuff. So yeah, the new car thing, I've always tried to tell people, hey, don't buy brand new. There's no reason to. Just find something that's slightly used. If you really want something that you think is nice, you don't have to buy brand new, and it's gonna cost you in the long run. So stay away.
Right. Yep. Very, very true. Very true. And I liked how you brought in dopamine, the dopamine hit, because one thing I'll share, like say when I had my primary residence, I struggled to pay the mortgage. This is going back 20 some years ago. I always paid it, and I always paid a little extra, but it consumed a large part of my paycheck. But we fast forward to now, and every month I find myself eagerly looking forward to making my mortgage payments, because I enjoy making them manually. I don't set up automatic drafts, and I pay like 20 mortgages or something. But I enjoy doing them manually because I'm getting that dopamine hit, I believe, where I make that payment, I'm updating my spreadsheet and be like, oh, my net worth just increased by $50. I pay the next mortgage, and it's so on and so on. And it's exactly what you said. It's a dopamine hit, and it's something I enjoy doing now. And you invest in real estate, so I think that feeling as well. As you pay your mortgage, your tenants help you to pay it down. And we didn't really have this show to talk about real estate, so I'll swing it back over to you if you want to kind of lead it back to where you want to go.
Yeah. So I think you hit on a couple important things there. Real estate's certainly one way to do it. Like I talked about earlier too, watching your investment account balance go up, not worrying about what's happening in the market day to day, because that doesn't matter if you're in it for the long haul. Do not worry about the day to day stuff. And I guess as part of mindset for that is take advantage of the bad days. I've been trying to train some of my friends towards this too, is, hey, don't get nervous when there's a bad day, buy more. In the long run, it's going to help you. You're going to make more money. So, but you really have to train yourself early on. This is not natural for most people. The natural thing is to be like, ooh, that thing's shiny, that car is shiny, that piece of jewelry is nice, or whatever, whatever excites people. And it's not investing normally. So you have to train yourself early on to make those manual investments, like you said, monitor and track your progress, watch your account balance go up over time. And then that eventually will, for most people, lead itself into another form of satisfaction. And if you can train yourself to be satisfied with doing that and watching your money grow instead of watching your future money shrink by buying a bunch of crap, then you're going to be set up for some good success in the long run, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And that's something about mindset and lifestyle creep is credit cards. And with credit cards, tell me in your words how you think credit cards can hurt people with both their mindset and their lifestyle creep, or how credit cards, and just in a nutshell, how credit cards can benefit people.
Yeah, so credit cards can either be the devil for you, or they can be a path to stuff that you would never do and never even dream of doing. I try and keep the people who are newer to investing and the younger guys and girls that I talk to away from credit cards, or at least multiple credit cards, because they don't have that training yet, that built-in habit of not maxing it out, not paying interest, or they just don't have the income for it yet. So I try and get people to wait until they have a little bit more income. And then I tell them what I do is every Monday I log in, and this is another manual thing I do. I don't set up automatic payments. Every Monday I log in and I pay off every credit card I have down to zero. If you don't do that, then there's no point in having credit cards. So if your mindset is not, I want a zero balance at all times, then credit cards are not for you and you need to stay away from them. Dave Ramsey would agree with that. I don't necessarily consider myself a fan of him, but for most people, they can't resist swiping, even if they don't have the money. So if you're one of those people, wait until you're not one of those people anymore. Use these other tips and tricks we talked about to train yourself on how to get there. And then when you get to that point that you can pay it off, whether you're financially able, you have assets that pay it for you, or you're just disciplined enough to not spend unnecessarily on a card, then credit cards can be for you. And that's another point, is don't buy things that you wouldn't normally buy on credit cards. Just because you get points for it, people kind of forget about the fact that they have to pay it off later. Like I said, right? They just buy something thinking, oh, I'll pay it off eventually, and I'm getting points for this. Well, if you're paying interest and making minimum monthly payments, those points mean nothing. They're not of any value to you because you spent money to get them more than you would have otherwise. But if you can get yourself to the point where you're disciplined and you can pay your bills off every Monday, not carry a balance, never pay a cent in interest, credit cards can be amazing, especially if you're in the military. And I don't want to get too deep down this rabbit hole because I could talk for hours about this. So we'll definitely do this in the future. But getting credit cards that you can get more value out of than the annual fee is beneficial. And it can get you to go to places that you would never go before or never even think to go.
I agree with everything you said there. And I'm not sure what day of the week it is for me because every week could be different. And I think some weeks, because I'm now retired, I have more time, I'm probably logging in my credit cards account maybe on Monday, maybe again on Friday, maybe on Sunday, maybe next Wednesday. And I'm constantly paying that balance down because it's probably been 20 years ago, I vowed to myself that I would never, ever, ever pay credit card interest. And once I made that, it was a conscious decision. Once I made that decision, that was also a good mind shift for me, because now I really looked at what I wanted to use that credit card for. Maybe I never was a free spender, but the little bit of spending I did, I started really looking, all right, if I buy such and such and it costs me $350, can I pay that off prior to the due date where I get charged interest? And it started off kind of slow, but now it's ingrained up here that it's almost like it's a cardinal sin. I cannot pay interest on credit card debt. I just can't do it. So
Yeah, that's a good habit to have and a good problem to have is never to want to do that. I'm kind of the same way. I say I log in every Monday and pay it off, but there are weeks where I'll log in 2, 3, 4 times, especially if I have big charges. And I'm trying to get away from doing that as much because really once a month is when you're paying interest, right? But keeping track of statement dates is kind of hard. So even if you only logged in twice a month and paid off your balance, you'd be fine. You would never pay interest. So you don't have to log in every day like we do. I get a little obsessive with it, which I guess could be considered a bad thing, but it's the opposite of how most people obsess about money, right? They obsess with spending money and they don't worry as much about carrying a zero balance and watching their investment balance.
right, very true, very true. And one thing on this channel, like I've noticed myself, my goal was to talk about a broad range of finances, but I find in many of my videos I'm gravitating back towards real estate. And now that we've talked a little bit about credit cards, that's one thing with real estate. As someone becomes a real estate investor, there's always repairs to be made. And this is really true if they own local property. If they want to start using credit cards to their benefit by owning rental property, when they need to go buy a hot water heater or buy a new toilet, they use their credit card. They have to buy it. They use their credit card. They get the points for it. They get the sign-up bonus, etc. And it's win-win as long as they do not pay interest. But we'll save the in-depth credit card talk for a future video.
Yeah, I love credit card rewards, travel rewards, all that stuff. Those have enabled me and my family to go places that we would never dream of going, stay in some really nice hotels, get rental car upgrades, all this stuff for free, basically, because as military, you don't pay annual fees with certain credit card companies. Yeah, I'll kind of leave it surface level like that, but you can let credit card points fund your lifestyle creep that you want to have to kind of scratch that itch without paying for it out of your own pocket.
That's a great way to say it, because I've said this out loud to my family before and friends. When I learned about credit card, like the travel rewards, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 years ago, whenever it was, it's like, wow, if I had paid attention to it 10 years ago, the stuff I could have done, the trips I could have taken, it would have just positively enhanced my life. But for myself, it's never too late to make positive changes.
No.
And I was already frugal, already not paying credit card interest. And now, without going into detail, I've used credit cards to get free vacations, free Airbnbs, I got a free upgrade to a first class airplane ticket, which I had never flown first class before, and on and on and on. But again, we'll talk more in depth in a future video about credit cards and travel hacking. So, but before we wrap this up, Bill, I know you took some notes on stuff you want to talk about it, but is there anything we really didn't mention or that you want to talk about now?
I think we hit all the big stuff. I got a few notes of basically, I know I've said tips and tricks a couple of times, so I don't mean to be a broken record, but just some things that might help some people. I don't use all of these things, but I know some people who do, and it works for them. Some people need that constant reminder of where they're going and, the goals that they're working towards. I don't write any of that stuff down. I'm not a journaling type of guy. But what I did do before I was moving around so much, but at my previous office, I had just a little Post-it note on my monitor that said, "Stay the course." And that was my daily reminder to not, buy anything crazy, not do anything unplanned money-wise that I wasn't already working towards. So having a sign somewhere or a notification on your phone that goes off every day that gives you that little poke, like, hey, don't go buy a new car today. Don't go, buy new clothes. Don't go buy something you don't need to do or don't need to get. That I have found helpful, and I know people that do the journaling with goal setting, things like that, they find that helpful too. And with that, just keep the big picture in mind. Always, not always, but give yourself that time to reflect on how you've performed in the last month. If you like to revisit your spending monthly, or you look at your budget monthly, whatever, every time you review that stuff, think about, what you want to work towards and how you can improve towards that. and then make those changes the next month, or at least make a plan to make them. It doesn't happen overnight, but yeah. And then I meant to talk about this earlier, we didn't talk about it, but part of developing that mindset and getting you to the next level is to surround yourself, or at least get introduced to people who are where you would like to be, right? So before I even bought a single piece of real estate, Caleb was already investing, telling me, hey, you should look into this, you should look into this. I researched it for a while, got introduced to the group, didn't think anything crazy was going to happen, and then boom, I got 7 rental properties in 6 months. And it just seemed like it kind of happened. And that never would have happened if I didn't join a group of people that were already doing it, and see that, basically anybody can do it. You just need to have the right people around you to get you there. The phrase is like, you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, or whatever. That is kind of cheesy to me, but at least have some kind of revisit time with people who are where you want to be, and ask them for help, and then get yourself around the people that are willing to help you, people like you, me, Caleb, those guys. Yeah. So I think that's it for mindset. For lifestyle creep, I talked about it a little bit, but as you get increases in pay, and as you advance in your career, or you start earning more money on the side doing something, give yourself small rewards. And then, like I said, try and make those rewards to invest more money and watch your account balances grow quicker, and then have your residual income be higher. And then you can buy the stuff that you wanted to buy before, and your investments are paying for it instead of your future self paying for it. And I think that's about it. That's all I got for those 2.
So, all right, that sounds good. You said a lot of key things there, so I won't rehash everything we just talked about. But one thing as like a daily reminder, and something I was doing going back 6-7 years ago, I guess, I started watching YouTube videos on a daily basis. And the YouTube videos I watched were dealing with real estate investing, stock investing, living frugal, that sort of thing. And it took a little while, but what it became was a reminder for me on whatever skill I was working on, let's say. But even like with my channel, like Bill, as of yet, you don't have your own YouTube channel. But for those out there, if they just tuned into my channel, they'll get almost a daily notification I've put out a new video. Even if they don't have the time to watch that video, it could be a reminder to them. Oh yeah, Mazske says we got to focus. Bill says we got to do this. Just a mental reminder. And for those out there who may do this, stay tuned, because Bill is going to be back, and we're going to talk on future topics.
Yeah, I think, like you said, those reminders and finding people to learn from is important, but I also would caution people to be careful about who you follow on YouTube, right? You've got the experience. I've got a little bit of experience. Don't go watch the videos of the people who are sitting in a Lamborghini in, I don't know, Beverly Hills or something like that, telling you how easy it is to get that, because it's not easy. And our videos may not be as exciting and as sexy as those, but they will get you to where you need to be. Investing is, for some people, fun, but for most people it's boring. And boring is good when it comes to investing. It should be boring, and it should happen over a long period of time. But one day you'll wake up and be like, wow, how did I get here? Oh, I was boring for 20 years and now here I am.
Yep, that's a great way to put it. If more of society was a little bit on the boring side, and boring doesn't mean we're boring. Like, say, when I finish this video, and I see there's a glare coming in my window, but when I finish the video, I'm probably going to go for a swim. I may take my kayak out. Tomorrow morning, I may get up and I may do a hike on a trail through the jungle. So I do consider myself a boring investor. I'm kind of boring if you sit and talk to me one-on-one. But at the same time, I get out and I experience, for the most part, free experiences.
Love it.
So, yep. So, all right, Bill. Well, it's been great talking to you. I think we'll go ahead and wrap this up then. So let me turn it back over to you one more time if you want to say your goodbyes, and then we'll just wrap this whole video up.
Yeah, so thanks for having me again. Another great conversation. Looking forward to whatever we talk about next, whether it be credit card rewards or alternative investments or whatever. We'll brainstorm on some topics and figure out what the people want. And let us know in the comments below what topics you would like us to talk about in the future. If we briefly mentioned something and you were like, wait, talk about that some more, let us know below. Message me directly, tag me on YouTube in the comments, whatever. I'd be happy to talk about anything that people want us to talk about, as long as it's helpful.
Sounds good to me. And is that the best way to reach you then? Just maybe tag you in the comments, or is there some other way someone could reach out to you?
Yeah, you can tag me in the comments. You can message me on Instagram is probably the easiest way. I don't want to like give out my personal Facebook or anything like that, but Instagram, I'll put this in the comments underneath the video, but my tag on there is WED Stunt Puller. And we don't need to get into where that name came from, but yeah, that's my Instagram tag. Feel free to message me on there, comment on one of my posts, whatever. Any way you want to get in touch with me, whether it be on YouTube or Instagram, is probably the best and safest way for all of us.
So, all right, that sounds good to me. And I'll shoot you a text when this video is uploaded, probably about an hour. Well, I might go for a swim, might be 2 hours from now.
Go for your swim, yeah, no rush.
Yeah. All right, Bill. Well, it's been great talking to you again. So I appreciate you showing up. And for Bill and myself, this is Mazske Finance. I'll be signing out in just a minute, but make sure you stay tuned in. There will be more future videos from Bill and other great individuals coming in the next few days. So, all right, y'all take care, stay safe, and Mazske Finance is signing out.